Welcome to Vibrant Numerals. In this video, which could end up being a long and a short or a series of videos, I'm going to talk about the astrology and the numerology of Juneteenth, in particular this Juneteenth 2025. I'm Elizabeth, and I help spiritual practitioners and number enthusiasts apply numerology to their practice and to their everyday life. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. So we have to have some kind of date to be able to do the numerology for this nation of African American people that were birthed out of the enslaved Africans within the United States of America. And so we use this date, June 19th, 1865, even though we know that there were many historical events that led up to this date, and there are dates after this date that could also serve as a birth date. But this is the date that is acknowledged in writing and in oral tradition, and what most people within this nation acknowledge as the commemoration date. And so that is what makes this vibration strong enough that this is the date that we'll actually be using. I am no astrology expert, so please, expert astrologists, please add some of your expertise, your wisdom down below in the comments. It'll be much appreciated. I just like to look at some surface level, just bits and pieces of the vibration because it helps me to understand the weaving that I'm seeing, because I never see just one strand of vibration. I always see them together. And so what I usually tend to look at is Pluto, because it is a very big generational energy. And so it is very dominant in the interactions with people. And so this African American nation is expressing and bringing transformation to the world through its expression of beauty and creativity. So in fashion, in music, in any of these art forms, are very much what that Pluto is doing. And then I like to also look at what is the surface level vibration that people are getting, because that gives you an idea of what are the stigmas or the stereotypes that other people or other groups or nations may be using against this nation. And so that's in the ascendant. And so because the ascendant is in Capricorn, the first impression could very much be seen as money or work focused. But in actuality, if you go where the sun is, you see that the African American nation is really innovative, yet seen as really unconventional, and very lighthearted and social, and very social communication is what is preferred. But you don't get to see that until you get past that surface level of the rising. I also like to look at Chiron, which is the wound, and the North Node, which is the life purpose. And so with the Chiron and the North Node, we're really kind of seeing that the wound that is being worked through is around communication, like not having a voice or not being heard. And that can be healed through that expression of spirituality and imagination, but making sure that it stays in the realm of like uh, envisioning, not dissociation, and it stays in the realm of spirituality, not hardcore religion. So you can find spirituality in religion, but it's really that spirituality is that connection to God, to your higher power. Um, and then that is related to that North Node that is really seeking to gain justice and balance in a really structured kind of formatted way, and especially in this outside, like external space. So the life purpose really is to learn how to get to an external space, because there's no real more external space than the career space, but is and within that structure, and you have Saturn there helping with the structure, but being able to be yourself, and be heard and feel like things are fair and just. And so those are the vibrations that I'm getting from this chart. Again, please add anything else that you are seeing. But that's usually what I look at before I look at the numerology. So the life path number of this African American nation is 45, which means that the first step in walking on this life path is change. It's changing internally. It's also really pushing for and being a change agent externally, because of this 5. Um, there is an acute awareness of change, the need for change, and the areas of change. And so once there's some recognition of the change, and we're at least on the path of making these changes both internally within the nation but also externally. Then we get to this 4, where now it's the examination of foundations, and it's the bringing of changes to the foundations, um, of mindsets, of systems, of the way of doing things. Um, it's That's what that 4 is. And then together, so the change itself and then the changing of systems brings on an ending of cycles. So thinking about that, there are these infinitely cycling energies, including karma. Sorry, they decided to ride motorbikes across the street. um, there's these cycles that just need to be ended, and anything that it's this is the way it's done, this is the way it's done, this is the way it's done, are those cycles. And that's where we identify the change. We can break up or shift the foundation and bring an end to that cycle. This life path number is depicted in the 5 of Cups tarot card, where you can see that the person in this card is looking down at the 3 cups that were lost, that were spilt and were lost. And so this vibration of 45 can have a tendency of getting caught up in the past, um, or told that we're caught up in the past. And then we question if we are. But really, all it is we need to make a change in perspective. We need to turn around. So that's changing and ending that old cycle of perseverating on what was. To be able to see that not only do we have 2 cups that can be used to begin to build this new foundation of energy, but that there's this expansive world back behind here, and there's so much more that is meant to be done. So that's where you see out of this African American nation, where those that have been able to stand in their identity and strongly in their Black identity and be successful, that's what has happened. They've been able to tap into this energy of 45, been able to make the changes within um, themselves, their households or their community, and begin to express, back to that birth chart, express the beauty that they see from that wounding so that they are healed and the world outside of them is healed. The problem is if that cycle has not happened and they gain some notoriety. But that's a different story for a different day. So 45 is the life path number of the African American nation. We can also look at the calculations for this divine triangle for the African American nation. And so when it's a person, an individual, you really only have one cycle around here. Not nowadays, because this only goes to 81, and most people are living past that, luckily. But what happens is once you pass that 81 point, now it's like stepping into a new identity and you're starting this youth again, because that youth portion of this cycle is where you're learning about the identity. You're learning about who you are and stepping into your identity through lessons in relationships. Then in power is where now you are building a power related to that identity, and from those lessons learned and relationships. And then you move into wisdom, where now you are able to stand strongly in the identity of who you are and project wisdom, with the power that you have to help others step into their identity, or through their power. Um, you're the wise soul now. The only thing is that if you don't learn any of those lessons in any of these squares, you will encounter them again and see them again in these later time periods. And those are the moments where you can react to things in more of an immature way, or when you are confronted with your inner child. So when we see people that are not um, behaving in a mature way, it's that something uh, some lesson didn't get learned in their youth. Um, they weren't able to gain that power to strengthen their identity and in that power. So we just all have to be aware of that. But when it comes to like a country, or in this case, a nation or a culture, you just keep cycling around here, but you still have that point where it's stepping into like a new part of your identity. It's kind of like when you say, "Oh, I've lived so many lives," because you've had a lot of different jobs or a lot of different life experiences. It's the same kind of thing. You're still you, but you're building a new layer onto your identity. So each time you go through these squares, you're building on the identity that you've established. And so we're coming up to where this African American nation will pass that birthing point in 2027. And that's when it'll be like this new layer, almost like the rings of a tree. It's a new layer of that identity. Still the same tree, but it's adding to who we are and that identity. Um, this is a big, huge spreadsheet, so I'm not going to share all of that with you. If you want to look at that, you can let me know, and I'll maybe do a live at a later time to discuss it. But I did want to show you some interesting patterns. So we have this mirroring pattern that we are seeing from 1937 to 1939. And then that's mirrored where it's the same pattern but an opposite orientation from 1946 to 1944 to 1946. And so what these vibrations are is those at the top are 45, which is that life path number, but that's really about learning experiences or gaining some kind of awareness through learning experiences. And then the lower one is a vibration of 20, which is considered a turning point. So from 1937 to 1939, it's having learning experiences, and then that's leading to a turning point. And then on the other side, it's a turning point, like something happens that then leads to an opening up of learning experiences and a new level of awareness. We see, well, we're in another version of this with the mirror images here. And here, this, so on the left-hand side of this curve is from 2018 to 2020. So I know we can all think about what was happening at that time, in particular for the African American nation. And I think that's what really we need to think about and understand the gravity of this impactful synchronicity. So in the divine triangle calculations, we are seeing this pattern. So from 2018 to 2020, we're starting 2018 at that 45 again, just like up there in 1937. We're starting at the 45 where it's some kind of learning experience, it's some kind of level of awareness that is gained from the learning experiences. But now we have this hump where we're leading up to this 2019, where now this is a level of clarity. It's like an opening up, an awareness opening up. It's like an awakening of clarity. So through these learning lessons and this awareness, now clarity is opening up, and that's leading then down to this vibration of 20 again, where it's a turning point, big turning point that's full of all of this awareness and clarity. So that's 2018 to 2020. But we're seeing this mirrored right now. So we are today, because today is June 19th, 2025. So it is the African American nation's 160th birthday. We look good. But we're just starting this first point. And so that first point is starting at the 20, where it is the turning point, a level of awareness. And I think we can see that where there's this change in the awareness that we're seeing. And then that leads up to, so then this time next year in 2026, we should begin to be able to see the clarity from that turning point, from that awareness. So from that awareness, that turning point opens up into some clarity. And then in 2027, that's where we drop down into these learning experiences again. But also, that's significant because at that same time point, 2 years from now, in 2027, is when it's a rebirth of the nation. It's a new identity, it's a new layer of identity that is starting. And so it means that at that time, the learning experiences in that first year will be highly significant and impactful to the identity, this new identity of the African American nation. So I just wanted to show that with this divine triangle, we can also combine these vibrations with other nations or other people. So we could have two individuals on one chart to be able to see what their vibrations are doing together. What does that look like? And so here we've added some of these vibrations of the United States nation of so born July 4th, 1776. And so I just wanted you to be able to see that we can look at these vibrational patterns and like when they're happening and understand that we could be seeing some different things. So actually right now, if we look just at the all the way to the far right, where we are looking at this 2025, 2026, and 2027. So you step into your energy for the year on your birthday. So the African American nation is stepping into 2025 energy right now. But the United States will not be stepping into that 2025 energy until next month, July 4th, on its birthday. So just giving you that kind of clarity to make sure you understand the timing. But we have this arc that's happening from 2025 to 2027 for the African American nation, but the United States nation also has this one point in 2026. And so 2026 could be an impactful year for both nations. And especially because they are coinciding in an interesting way where the African American nation is in the vibration of 55 while the USA nation is in a vibration of 47. And so the contrasting and the working together or being butting heads with those vibrations I'll dig into that a little bit more and give you some more information. But you can see that it happened differently earlier on this same chart. So when we are looking at that 2018 to 2020, it wasn't until 2021 that the USA nation was having this same vibration. And so because the African American nation resides within the USA nation, the USA nation is like a parent to the African American nation, the African American nation is really experiencing both of these vibrations. But that's also where the experiences of these different nations can be very different. So those that are only in the USA nation would only be feeling the blue, while those that are in the African American nation would be feeling both the red and the blue and the contrasting between it. Thank you for joining me. That was a lot of fun. I am getting more into this and looking at this, so maybe at some point we can do some lives or some longer videos of really digging into using the divine triangle, but also looking at all of these vibrations together and how they coincide and are really creating a weaving or a tapestry. Thank you for joining me. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and hit that notification bell so you can get my next video. Thanks. Bye.